This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Jumbo, 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 everyone, and a very good afternoon, and welcome to this afternoon game drive. We're starting here in the Masai Mara, and all I can tell you is welcome to your afternoon live safari. Jumbo, jumbo once again, and welcome to your afternoon safari. We're starting off here in the Masai Mara, and as you can see, we have our resident pride of lions, the Olololo Pride. Remember to talk to us on a kids question at Wild Earth TV. You can send in your kids question. You can also send in questions at hashtag Wild Earth. And also at FC. This afternoon, the temperature is around 28 degrees Celsius. So it is perfect to be out here. And it looks very beautiful and lovely. As you can see, not very cloudy. Jumbo, my name is Isaac, and on the camera I have Bungay. Our mission today is to look for lions. We knew where they were, and we are here. But we're going to head out a little bit later and see if we can find the river lionesses with their cubs. But to start with, we are right here. I will remind you, talk to us, hashtag Wild Earth. Send in your kids' question at kidsquestion.wildearthtv, and also at FC. Seems to be very interesting with these two, lions, I would say, lions and lionesses, because she is ready to mate and he is not interested. This is a very unusual and interesting behavior, because usually he's the one that is up very quickly to try and have and sire his own offsprings. But he's showing some affectionate. You can see some affection, he's putting his arm around her. But he's not getting up. Can you hear the growling? Well, I'm staying here because it's going to get interesting as it is cooling down. And let's see what's happening in a different location.
Welcome to a hot and sunny afternoon here at Ambion Pindler Private Game Reserve. We found some white rhinos grazing close to a little bit of water that they found in the hot, open grasslands of the south of the reserve. My name is Ross, and behind the camera is Gerrit. And today we are spending some time in these open plains that you can see behind me and around these rhino. And we're going to look for some other animals as well as these rhinos, but we're going to stick with them for now. I've just seen another third rhino coming up the hill over my left shoulder to join them. He's also making his way towards this water. And as I said before, it's been quite an excruciatingly hot day here with a very, very warm breeze and with very little cover or trees around here. I think these rhinos are all making their way towards this water to find some relief from the heat. They don't look like they're in any rush though. They're still grazing on this newly sprung grass that you can see that's a bright, vivid green that's carpeting this entire ground. And they're using their lips to just pluck it out and eat as they move towards the waterhole. So I'm not sure if you saw quickly before the camera was panned to the other rhino, but they were covered in mud. And I think shortly these two rhino that are on their way to the water are also going to have a drink, a much needed drink after this heat, and they might even roll in the grass, or sorry, not in the grass, in the water to cool themselves off. Look down here, we found another interesting little creature rolling, also doing some rolling. Rolling its a piece of dung. This is a dung beetle rolling a piece of dung that it's found towards somewhere where I think it's going to try and dig it into the soil to lay its eggs in. But let's just watch it for a while and see where it goes. We're going to stick here and spend some time with this rhino, with this dung beetle and these rhinos, and see what else we can find coming towards this water.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Masai Mara of Kenya. We have a lioness that is busy rolling and turning. Could call it maybe lion yoga. My name is Tim, and behind camera we have Big James. What a beautiful afternoon to come across this lioness here. Yesterday she tried to hunt, but she failed. She tried a little bit to get close to zebras, but the zebras got away. Again, 3 wildebeest got closer. She again missed. So I'm going just to change position a little bit for a better view. Seems like she might try to hunt. By the look of it, she's kinda hungry. And I'm going to position it so that we see what she's up to. She's the same lioness that was chasing the big male yesterday. Split nose or Bob Marley. Together with her sister, they have cubs around this area. She was quite aggressive. She didn't want Split nose to get closer to her. We could see her growling, and at one time she actually went closer to him and chased him off. Not quite sure where she's got her cubs in, but I'm sure soon, very soon, she'll be able to show us her cute cubs. She's gone to the loo. Now that is a typical behavior when lion is out for a hunt. You see it walking round and round closer to the bushes. And sometimes there are some
antelopes that like hiding in the bushes, like the reedbuck, bushbucks, and even the tiny dik-diks. So with this, sometimes they can be successful. Yesterday morning we saw her eating a tiny antelope. I wasn't sure what it was. Could be an impala or a reedbuck. So I'm going just to watch her keenly and see what she's up to. See if she will follow the big herds that are close to the escarpment, or maybe something else that might come on her way. What a wonderful evening to come across this, and I'm sure she's going to be successful by the look of it. I'm crossing my fingers for her. She's gone behind the bushes, so I'll still carry on and see where she's going to. So sometimes even if there's a prey here, maybe an antelope or zebra, depending, they might not even see where the lion has gone to. So lions conceal themselves in that kind of bushes, and it would be nice to see her going after something.
Well, I'm here with the Olololo Pride, dominated by a coalition of 2 male lions. One is older than the other, Olalashe, who you just saw a few minutes ago. And on the screen right now is Kijana. He's much younger. I would give him a good, 5 years. He's been mating with a collared female, and he looks like he ate something. It wasn't a big something. He's got some blood on his cheeks. I don't think it was big enough. Maybe it was an impala or something, but I cannot say exactly. So, they shared it, and it wasn't as big. During mating, usually lions don't feed, but if a chance really prevails itself, they will utilize it, and I think that's what happened. That's why, he's got a bit of blood. He is a bit alerter than earlier when I found him. He was fast asleep, and he has mated twice, so it looks like the mating is still going on. After mating, usually lions, will carry their young up to 3.5 months, and for the female she's mating with, very experienced, she will give birth to around 4. Usually they are blind, and their eyes are ready to open at around 10 to 14 days. That's when they start moving around. They start, getting carried from one den to the other within their territory. And within 2 months, that's when they actually, start eating solids. So I expect now we are in October, mid. So probably early January, we will have some very new cubs. I'm looking forward to that. In between matings, there is a lot of sleeping, as you can see. And usually, when the mating is almost to happen, the females will wake up, and initiate the mating. But for now, it's going to be around another 18 to 20 minutes before they mate.
Everybody, welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Savi Sands. My name is Steve, joined by Theo Island on camera. Very excited to have you with us. Now, we are checking some water points this afternoon, seeing what we can find. We just had a nice family of kudu who were lying up in the shade, but they all decided to move off and back into the thickets, where they just disappear with the vegetation, which is getting greener and greener by the day. So we've checked Twin Dams, Treehouse Dam, and we're now going to go to Chitwa. I'm looking for some elephants who would like to come and drink and swim. It is a nice warm day. So to keep moving or to stay in the shade is what we need to do. So jump on board looking for a few warm days as well coming up. So checking the water points is going to be ideal. And that is exactly our plan for today.
Good afternoon and welcome to And Beyond Ngala. It's an incredibly hot day and we've got a few buffalo bulls here. They've been spending their time in the water over here, trying to cool down. I'm a little bit jealous of them actually. We gave them a bit of a fright as we came around the corner. They've seemed to get up and moving towards the shady part. Good afternoon, my name is Dan and on the camera we've got OG. And this afternoon we started off working our way through quite a thick area looking for some leopards. And I'm going to continue going along the riverbed, looking to see if we can maybe find that pack of wild dogs. I'm going to leave these buffaloes to continue to move into the shade, and I'm going to keep moving on to see if we can find those wild dogs. So the buffaloes are still moving off. I don't know if we can, a couple of oxpeckers that are calling. They've made their way, the oxpeckers have actually come down to have a little drink from the back of the buffalo. They've actually used the opportunity now that the buffalo have left the water to come onto their backs, have a little drink, maybe go straight back there, exactly like that. Looking for predominantly ticks on the backs of those buffalo. You'll see them getting into the really deep, dark areas inside their ears, underneath their tail, in between their legs. That's the kind of areas that ticks love. This is quite a big buffalo bull. And he is spending time with, I think it looked like 3 other older bulls who kind of lost their speed and aren't able to keep up with the rest of the herd. But I'm going to keep going, see if we can maybe find the wild dogs at the beginning part of this drive.
Good afternoon and welcome to Tswalu Kalahari. We're viewing Gemsbok, or the oryx as they know it. My name is OBAKENG. Everybody calls me OB. And further over my shoulder, we've got some baboons also by the watering hole drinking.
I think they're just behind.
Maybe we cannot really get it. I'll slowly move once I've dealt with the oryx here to show you the Shagma baboon that's busy drinking. A very majestic antelope, beautiful coloration there, a true icon of the Kalahari, the oryx. I mean, everything for a particular reason. If you look at the coloration, I mean, first start with the face. Look at that black and white and how the black almost shades the eye, and one can imagine with the harsh condition here and the sun, that gives the animal a little bit of shade over its eyes, and obviously with a bit of white on the face, also helping with the heating and cooling, and also shedding away of the light there. Shami, you are right in saying a salt block or a mineral block. The area we are in, these animals need a little bit of nourishment. Yes, it is a form of nourish for them. So you will see they'll come and lick every now and then, and sometimes these animals are also known to actually eat the soil itself, and that is actually called geophagia, the eating of soil, or supplementing nutrients from eating of the ground. Shall we maybe move on and try?
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve here in Sabi-Sense. Today, temperatures we're sitting on 29 degrees 85 Fahrenheit, and it's quite a little bit warm for us. And my name is Andrew. On camera this afternoon, I have Morgan. So this is how we're going to be taking you to safari in this wild safari. Looking at this beautiful hyena, we just find him. Oh, he just came to the pool when we arrived into this. I was about to drive. I was driving off along the road, and we just spot this individual hyena coming into that beautiful water hole. As they do that, hyena, you find them during a daily basis. All you see there is that they're enjoying being in the water. Same as wild dogs. They love water so much. I mean, talking about them loving water is not actually about getting cleaned, but it's all about softer or cool off. Well, it's been, hot, 29 degrees for them. It's slightly hot. All animals, all of them, could be an elephant. You find them, lucky enough, arriving into that very beautiful water hole, and they all started to swim. Then elephant can swim when they want to. So the spotted hyena, I'm not sure what is happening here. Since we see him or her, I think her, and then she's pretty much looking around or alert, which I'm not sure. Were they a very good hunter anyway? Good afternoon, Mika. I think I got it right there. So they normally go to the water hole, during a hot daily basis of a day. They love water, hyenas. And, this mud wallow they do, it's all about cooling off. So they don't do rubbing against the stump or falling wood like warthog do. They are just doing for their own safety of cooling off. So especially when it's actually the temperature has picked it up during the day, like today, they probably just gonna like doing that. And of course, if there is something here that makes this particular hyena come to this very much same spot, and then we're probably gonna find out. I think I might actually just gonna wait here and see what this hyena is going to end up to for us. They are moving so much during the day. Sometimes when they are attracted by their hunting, or if they know there is something around, they will steal, or there is something that injured, they will try and maybe wait around until it's possible for that animal. If they're scared of go to finish it off or kill it, they're probably just going to surround it. So this is what is going to be happening now. We're just going to wait, see if it's going to be any change or any interactive with this hyena. It's beautiful.
Oh, well, a giraffe turned by to witness this, and he just stayed for a little bit, then he left. Looks like he wasn't very interested in seeing, lions mating. Well, the female has tried a few times to mate, but he wasn't ready. He has been very, very lazy, Olalashe. I haven't seen him mate even a single time. maybe he has given up. Normally they will mate, for a very long time, up to 50 times in 24 hours. But for him, he hasn't mated even a single time. I think he was, mating at the beginning and making them ready for the kijana to finish up, and that's what's happening. I still have to be convinced that, he would mate again if he doesn't this afternoon. Mostly when they're well fed, they're not mating. This is what lions do. They will just rest for as many hours as possible. I was trying to explain this morning how hard and how hardworking they are when they decide to look for something. But in this case, I cannot, because what they're doing is they're resting. But lions deserve, recognition for being very active when they want to. Looks like the pale lioness has moved away slightly. She's getting tired of Olalashe just sleeping there and doing nothing. Also, it is very interesting, to see this kind of behavior.
Welcome back to and Beyond Pinda, and I believe you've been seeing some very interesting behavior with a pair of lions. We're still here with two of the rhinos that we saw earlier, and it was quite an interesting little confrontation that we saw just after you left us. So it was two big bulls that had come up the hill towards the waterhole to get some water to drink, and the other two rhinos that we were with before was a young male and a female. And when that young male caught wind of these two bulls, he got a big fright. And it was very interesting to see how they greeted each other. The male kind of asserted his dominance just with a little flick of his head. And after that, when everyone had established their place in a little group, they continued to graze along quite peacefully like they're grazing now. And now they've actually changed direction. They've gone back the way they've came. There's some trees towards which they're grazing. I think they might actually go there and find some shade to spend the rest of the afternoon, because it is very hot. But look at these two birds sitting on the top of this rhino's back. Actually rhinoceros, and we have far more white rhinos than the other species, which is called the black rhino. And because of the current sort of rhino poaching crisis that is going on across Africa and across the world, we don't know the official numbers. We have a conservation team that works at Pinda full-time and manages our population every day, monitors them and knows exactly how much or how many rhinos we have, but we don't know, just for security reasons, in case those numbers get out and it could put them at risk. But there's, safe to say, a lot of rhino at Pinda. It's one of the strongholds in KZN for white rhinos, and they do exceptionally well here. They're these open fields and rolling hills of grassland, which is their primary food. They only eat grass, so their habitat here is perfectly suited for white rhino, and equally so for black rhino. There's lots of good black rhino habitat for them as well. So we were talking about the birds that were sitting on the back of those rhinos, and they were actually red-billed oxpeckers. And those birds are birds that are a great help for rhinos because they sit on the back of them and they pick ticks off of the rhino to eat. So while they get food from eating the ticks off the rhino, they also help the rhinos relieve themselves of the massive tick load that they can get here. And it's quite a good two-way relationship that they've got. However, recently there's been studies to show that actually these oxpeckers aren't as friendly as we think they were, because they actually also eat scabs and blood and can cause a bit of harm to these rhinos. So it might be more of a parasitic relationship than a mutual friendly relationship than we first thought. But these rhinos are starting to move away from us towards that shade that I was talking about, and I think we're going to lose them soon. So we'll probably leave them and go off to find what else we can see here in these open plains.
Similar to rhinos, kudu and oxpeckers also have a symbiotic two-way relationship. There were a few that have just flown off of this kudu bull that we're currently having a look at. There are another 3 in the background, but along the riverbed here where we've been driving, been checking in the shades of the trees to look predominantly and particularly for leopard this afternoon to start off. But have a look at this. This is a young kudu bull, and can you see those beautiful curving horns? They can get quite a lot bigger than that. And quite an interesting thing about those horns is that they're not really used so much for fighting. One would think that a huge, strong set of horns like that would make him a very good fighter, but not so much. Can you see those curls in that horn? They are used predominantly for display. So when 2 big males compete against one another for breeding rights, they will size each other up for as long as they can. And then if there is an obvious winner, he will win. It is only on rare occasions when they are so similarly matched that they will actually engage in a fight. And because of those curls, if they do fight, they can actually end up getting caught together. And if they do, very likely end up killing at least one, if not both of them. But look at those ears as well. See how big they are and facing back towards us? Gary, why are their horns so long? So the longer and the bigger and the stronger their horns are and their body, the greater the chance of them winning that initial display. And if they can win that initial display, they won't have to engage in a fight, which could result in death or injury. So the bigger, stronger, and longer their horns are, the greater their chances of winning those breeding rights over other kudu bulls. Those ears, you see how big they are and how they're facing back towards us and moving around constantly? That is one of their predominant sense that they use, is their hearing. They move around in these thicker areas. Can you see how that kudu's feeding on the trees? While it's not looking, it uses its ears to make sure it's listening to things that are maybe coming closer and moving around it.
Beautiful. So we're still sitting now into this very small pool here for this hyena. I'll call it hyena pool for now because this hyena occupied this pool already for now. But that doesn't mean that she won't gonna move off. If there is any other big animal coming here to drink, this type of the day we're more likely to see, or elephants sometimes come in here to drink, or rhino or buffaloes, and then of course she's gonna make her way out of there just to avoid the kind of like conflict between. They are carnivorous species, but for them to be able to hunt, they're very capable of hunting in group. But this is probably, when it happens, they couldn't unite in time, or could be maybe just come out of that den that we have on the western side of us here. And they were just looking, trying to identical set of sort of like a pattern in it. I would think of Ntima, if I'm not mistaken. And the particular hyena we're looking at right now. So, this is how they cooperate. And it is something really interesting around here for them to be able to get around. It's got to be communications. And that communication, it means so much for those around. And it could be the same species we're talking about, the other hyena that are around, and they're all just going to come out from one single call. Because they have a few different calls. Some call just communications of when they get it to move, and they're all just greeting each other from distances. But there's a specific call when one has got a very interesting things that she or he might need help, and that contact call is going to be responded by many of the other clan member around. Even though also scattered all over, but then they're all just going to come out, immediately run into that scene, just to investigate. And that way, that's how they always succeed in terms of stealing from the big cats. So they are, we would think hyena don't hunt, but they hunt very well, and they're well successful in killing.
Welcome to Chitwa, everybody, where we are just skirting around, having a look around the water. We've come over to the open plain, and we found ourselves a small little flock of guinea fowl that are doing exactly what any sane animal in person will do on a warm day like this, sticking to the shade. Find very low peaks of activity in the middle of the day when it's very hot. There's still some birds that will call, but many of them will really slow down in the heat of the day. Just try and cool themselves here. You might hear that high-pitched whistling call. There's some African grey hornbills declaring some territory. Spring is here, summer's on its way, and all the birds, well, a lot of the birds are going to be choosing this time for breeding, a time when food is plentiful in the form of seeds, green vegetation, flowers, and as well as insects, which are obviously attracted to the flowers, and then the predators that feed on them. So there's a time of abundance in the African savannas. Change in the seasons brings with it a change in the birds as well, the migratory birds. We had our first Le Valence cuckoo this morning. It's very exciting. It's whenever you hear the first cuckoos, you know summer is here, and beware of the heat. So we're going to go back down to Chitwa watering hole in a moment, see who's out and about, who's braving it to go and have a drink. But as you can see, even the guinea fowl, who are pretty hardy fellows, are spending their time in the shade, and it's a wonderful place to be.
So guinea fowls play a very important role in the control of ticks, flies, locusts, and other invertebrates. Now here we have elephants who look like they're resting. So from the grazing and from the browsing, as the elephants keep on going back and forth from the low escarpment to the swamps, because they have the small calves, they have to take intervals and rest because of those small cows who cannot keep up the pace, and they get tired quite often. It's the work of the matriarch who tells them what to do. And right now it seems like the matriarch has said it's time to rest. Good thing we have good cloud cover. It's overcast, so it's not very hot. Sometimes you find when during the hot times of the day, elephants, the entire family will circle up and form a big circle, excuse me, where they'll place the calves in the center and cover them for shade. See that tiny young also stopping there, waiting for mom. So the communication that goes in around here is actually very important because these matriarchs have the experience. They've been walking through these plains for over years and years. Like I'll place maybe that matriarch to be over 40. So you can imagine for 40 years, she's been traversing through here, going over, crossing maybe the Mara River to the plains, and wherever they'll be going in search of food and minerals and water. So the young calves who are female will follow those instincts, and in time before they become independent and have their own babies, they'll still use the same routes, the same mother communication to their calves, and this is how elephant passed the information from generation to generation. Eventually, the young boys or teenagers will leave these herds, and with them, they also sometimes come and visit the members of their families. So I'm going to rest here and watch these elephants and see what they'll do, because it seems like they're all quiet, flapping and cooling off as I take you over to another live location.
Welcome back to And Beyond Punda. I'm glad you got to see some elephants. We've just driven away from the rhinos that we were just with and came across this massive water monitor lizard. It must be about 1.5 meters long. And when we saw it, it got a bit of a fright and walked away, but then it relaxed. And now look what it's doing. It's actually digging into the burrow of, there it's just put its head up. I think it's digging into the burrow of some kind of lizard or insect or frog or reptile that it smelt in the ground, and it's trying to dig its way in there. Look how powerfully it's scraping that dirt back using its very, very strong muscles. And if you watch it now, it's smelling with its tongue. We've got a question from Beach Bunny, and it's a good question, Beach Bunny. Yes, they do indeed like to hunt lizards, and actually anything small, reptiles, frogs, small birds, insects. Their diet is very varied, and pretty much anything that they can get their hands on, they'll eat. They'll scavenge carcasses, they'll eat birds' eggs, and yeah, at the moment, I can only assume this is a small creature in a burrow that it's found and has used its tongue to smell out, and it may not even know itself what's down there, but its tongue has led him to that hole, and he'll find out when he gets to the bottom of it, so to speak. It's also been basking in the sun for all afternoon. There's no trees around here, and it's an exothermic animal, so it's gets all its energy from the sun. So it's oh, look what it's got. What is that? Oh my word, we've seen our first kill of the day. I think that was a small frog. I didn't get a good look at it, but it looked like it dug out a frog there. Oh my goodness. That was insane. And he swallowed it in one gulp. One gulp without even chewing. That is amazing to see. Very, very lucky. But now I think he's still digging in there. Maybe there's something else of whatever he's just eaten, that small frog. that is down that burrow. There is a frog on Pinder called a Pinder button spider. A Pinder button frog, rather. There's also a thing called a Pinder button spider, but a Pinder rain frog is a little frog that looked exactly like that frog that he just ate and lives in burrows. So that might be what he's just eaten. But I think he's going to carry on now and find some more things to eat. And we're going to send you to another live location.
Welcome back to Tswalu Kalahari. In our screen now, you're looking at a southern giraffe, one of the 4 species of giraffe that we do get. This is the only giraffe that we get in the southern Africa, the southern giraffe. Now, what you're looking at, it's a male, and it sometimes gets tricky with people asking, how do you differentiate between male and female? Obviously, if you look at the head, there's 2 protrusions coming out of the head. Those are not actually horns, they are called ossicones. Now, if you look at the male's ossicones, they would be very robust or very thick at the bottom, and they would go bold on top, whereas if you look at the female's ossicones, they'll tend to be much thinner and they would have tufts of black hair at the top. It's one of the most common ways to differentiate between male and female when it comes to giraffe. Also, the posture of the neck to a certain degree can also give you the sexual dimorphism of these animals, with the male's neck being much thicker and almost having a direct straight up posture, whereas the females would almost have like a 45 degree angle with the neck. But very typical of him at current, under the shade and just taking the day easy, because it is very hot. You're looking at temperatures of almost 36 degrees but at the current stage. So he's just in the shade, cooling himself there, and soon as it cools down a little bit, they might start walking by and start foraging on these camel thorns that we do get around him. A very tall animal, but also, again, looking at what I've just talked about with the neck, interesting, with all mammals, the giraffe would also have 7 vertebrae, but those vertebrae would be very big. Yes, Elsa, you are right. They seem to be very inquisitive, but if you take the point of view from where they see things, it would be at a very big height or very elevated. So they tend to see a lot far, and that's why a lot of other animals would associate themselves with giraffes, so that they have the vantage point with the giraffe being able to see afar, and the other animals seeing around them, and that is a mutual benefit for all of them.
Welcome back to the Mara, where our elephants are still relaxing. You see them standing there, flapping their ears. I saw one calf nursing, and sometimes the elephant will nurse their calves just to comfort them if maybe they're tired, and sometimes if they are so much very stressed, they'll see them nursing. It's only sometimes because of comfort, or sometimes when they need to shady, it's cloudy. So most of them are not as hot as compared to when there's no clouds. So sooner or later, the mother will communicate and they'll start heading up to the escarpment. So this is a daily routine that they always perform. In the morning, you'll see them walking towards these plains. The Scout, thank you so much for your question. I don't know what you meant in terms of long, if it's height or what, but some, it depends with the age. So some are very tiny. So we have different age. We have two ages here. We have a set that is older, about
So yeah, we decided to leave that witnesses have moved off from that beautiful pool and just gonna sit around and see if we can find anything else, because there's a game around here where we think it might be maybe active. We're also gonna find out and check that thing.
Welcome back. Yeah, we've got a pale morphed Wahlberg's eagle, which is quite interesting. You don't often see this white variation all too often. I mean, have a look at it there. Can you see as it turns its head around, you can see that little crest of hair at the back of its head sticking out quite predominantly when it faces the other way. You'll see as well, if there's a little gust of wind, it'll stand up quite a lot like Johnny Bravo. Oh, look at that. Little display for us, a little stretch out of the wing. Really showing off. He actually just revealed his other foot, which he was resting at the top of the tree. It's a really good vantage point at the top. You see how there's not many, he might fly, might go to the bathroom, have a poo, and stretch. Not just yet. What a good vantage point from up there. I mean, there's a small little marsh area over here in which it might be looking for some kind of reptiles, frogs. They also hunt smaller birds and small mammals, and having a vantage point from the top there with no leaves around it, it's an easy takeoff spot if he does see a potential prey. I'll be surprised. I'm sure he's going to fly away soon. You often see birds to make themselves a bit lighter just before flight, going to the bathroom, defecating, and then taking off. See how he's moving a bit? One. Oops. And off he goes into the distance. Super glad he hung around for some time and actually showed off a little bit. Looks like he's flying towards the river, maybe to find a bigger, taller tree that he can also continue hunting from. And on that note, I'm going to keep going. Let's see. This is the direction of the tracks from the wild dogs that we had this morning. I don't think they're going to be moving around at the moment, but that gives us a real good opportunity to see if we can find them before they do start moving around. And they're going to be very likely hunting again this evening and this afternoon. Here comes that bird again. I don't know if you saw him.
Well, I decided to leave the lions and find something else, then go back to them later on. And here I have come across a small herd of the beautiful and the fastest topi. This is one of our, like I said, fastest antelopes. They run really fast. So you rarely get to see them, being eaten by any predators. Every now and then they do make mistakes and they get eaten. They do migrate, so during the migration we have a very good number of them, amounting to around 20 to 30,000. We haven't seen that many this year. Maybe they didn't come our way. but definitely they do, migrate. The, give birth in the months of September, October. We have been seeing lots and lots of young ones. Here, there's a few that are carrying the young ones, and they will be dropping them, in the next coming weeks. Yeah, it's a grazer. Always, out grazing. And, during breeding, we do see a big number of males forming what we call a lek, where, the strongest one go to the middle and challenge one another. And if, they conquer everybody else, the females will make their way to the middle. That's where the strongest one are, and they mate with them. They have amazing eyesight. Friends say Amid Adventure. I hope you got your name right. Do I feel like sometimes I'm very close to animals? It depends. We always have to be at a very comfortable distance. If they come towards me, I have nothing else to do but to wait for them to come. And usually, when they come to me, it means they have accepted me as part of their environment, and so I have nothing to worry about. Of course, there is those animals I have to be very, very wary, like lone buffalo bulls, black rhino, elephants in mast, and also lions that are mating, that are not used to vehicles. I have to be careful. So I don't know if I answered you right, but it depends on if they have come towards me, I don't mind. If I've gone towards them, I worry because I have broken their safety distance. I have broken their surrounding, and they can be actually aggressive towards me. So I'm very careful on what I do. That one has decided to rest. Remember, they can be very vulnerable when they lie down in tall grass like this, but seems that, the others are around, then it's quite happy to lie down because the others will watch for predators. There is, yes, but also still, if it's left too far by the others, it could be very, very vulnerable. This is the time that I've seen hyenas, stalking those ones, like lying down like that. And once, they get hold of one, they don't let go. Hyena, in fact, is one of the biggest enemies to the topi. And they're quite lucky because in this area, we don't see very many hyenas for some reason, unknown to me. But the numbers are increasing slowly.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome once again. We're coming to you from Chitwa, where we've got Tswalu, and I've seen at least one of her cubs. The other cub is somewhere nearby. A little bit of a kill in the tree. Very small impala left behind. Doesn't last long with her and her youngsters. There we go. There's some meat. Unfortunately, we've only got a few minutes here as the vehicle pressure for a site like this is picking up. So we're blessed we're able to show you her. Maybe we'll get another view of the cub. I believe both of them are here. I've only seen one so far. I don't know where she's gotten to. Can you see her there? Hang on a second. Stand by.
Hey dude, I'm going to pull out. Let me know when you're going to...
Copy it. Okay, definitely Tswalu. Well, Tswalu's got, those of you who can remind me, she's got 2 spots on each side. 2-2. 2-2. So please, if those of you out there can remind me, I've only ever seen Tswalu twice. I thought she had a 1-1 spot. But because there's a cub here, I assumed it was her and her 2 cubs, but it might be another leopard altogether. So please let me know. #WildEarth. Let Final Control know. You can let us know. 2-2. Trying to access it on my phone now, but I can't find it. Makes sense that it's her, though. Very flat. Nice and full in the shade. This is the area they came into yesterday. We tracked them down here, so very, very likely is them. Okay, so Tswalu is a 2-2 spot pattern. Thank you very much. Wonderful. This is the perfect environment for a leopard. These little drainage lines with sort of low-hanging or tall trees with quite sturdy branches, enabling them to hoist their prey. Lots of drainage lines in these areas. Lots of small, medium-sized prey. But this impala was obviously caught yesterday and is already almost completely finished. So it just goes to show you how much effort a female goes into looking after cubs, especially when there's 2. Imagine trying to keep 3 going. It's just way too much food consumption. Don't forget, mum also has to eat. The cubs don't really care. They just eat and play and eat and play. Mum does all the hard work. Very hard work being a leopard mum. But what rewards they produce by successfully rearing cubs. I don't think she's going to be going anywhere anytime soon. And I can just see a spot of one of the cubs in the thicket, but the other one invisible, and we can't actually show it to you because it's unattainable at the moment. But it is what it is. Live safari. You take what you can get. Sometimes they might pop out and show you what's going on. Sometimes not. But the vehicle pressure is definitely picking up, so we're going to have to move out after this. Then we'll go back over to Chitwa to see the watering hole, see what's going on. Don't seem to be getting any comms through. Did you get that question there? No. Unfortunately, our radios are breaking up.
Beautiful, so we're lucky. Find this beautiful subtle bullstock. You know, it's a little water hole there. These are also a water bird where they associate around where there's water, wet area, because then they benefit from frogs. You know, they can take any type of frogs, fishes as well. Anybody who stays in the water, as long as there's a good size for that bird to take it up, to feed on it, and it can. They're actually a very active bird, which you often find them usually pair or single. So they are looking at the female. Can't actually get to close enough to able for you to have a look. Usually males have a little round red in their eyes, but the females a lot of yellow in their eyes. And they can actually as well fly very far when they want to. But they just look like a freeze since we get there. It doesn't actually do a lot of movement, but trying to able to look both sides of that position where that bird's sitting. So any movement of frogs and movement of fishes, and then it will be taken from there. They have a very strong beak, as you can see, that whole beak. It's actually even bigger than their head, if you want to compare that beak. So that can able to take size of medium size of a catfish, as well as any tilapia fish that occur around here would be actually taken by that bird. And sometimes they can be found near river, wherever it's wet enough for them to be able to feed, and it's actually the best chance to see them this time of the year where it's wet. So a puddle of water is everywhere. We just saw water actually coming into this area, but in the far right, just gonna see if we can, Morgan, get into that for us. There it is. So it's the best time for everybody to investigate the water, and probably for these type of animal warthog, they can wallow in the mud. The one that is coming out there, you can notice it's actually not the same color as the one who is leading on front. So that one, there it is. It's wet. So it's probably just came out of one of these mud wallow recently, and it hasn't actually been dried off yet. We were talking about that animal when we were talking about that hyena, that this animal, when they have enough of wet on their body, also for cooling off, but they finally find the falling logs or a piece of a stump, they rub against that for their own safety, or in terms of parasite, ticks will be coming off from just scratching against the wood when their skin is wet and doesn't actually hurt their body. You would imagine for such an animal like that to go rub into one of the stump while they dry off, and of course it will be scratched into kind of bleeding because their skin, a lot of dust is in their skin. So when they're wet, a lot smooth. So it's softer when you do that because it's very slippery. So if you come across one of these stumps that these guys use, you can able to tell how smooth it is. Just like rubbing paws. We're back to a bird right now. It's lovely. Bending over to that ground. Probably spot something while we're looking way there. It's going to see how it's going to dip its beak into the water, but when it does that, that's how they feel. If it's anything, the beak is touched into it, otherwise it's going to be grabbed up and killed. Before swallow, they kill and swallow. I'm going to leave this bird and move on.
Welcome back to the Mara, and this time round we have a big bull giraffe. Look at how he's walking majestically, his legs walking side by side. Now that's called a gait walk, where you find both legs moving on the same direction. The ones to the left moving one direction. I mean, when they walk, they move just side by side. So big bulls sometimes will not be in the mix of the females and the youngsters. So they always prefer walking alone, and they move from one home range to another because giraffes don't occupy territories. So they walk from one home range to another. So these big bulls sometimes, when they walk into those families that have unstable herd, where we find young males, young females, and the youngsters, they always try to analyze the scent of females to see if they can mate with them. So these bulls will cover long distance from those areas. And you can see right now he's by himself. He's headed towards the bushes, where he will be browsing from one leaf to another. And they're very much selective. Leah, thank you so much for your question. Giraffes don't ever lie down. What they do, they'll just sit. They'll sit because it's very hard for them to lie down and wake up. So they always sit by folding their legs and then getting down to the ground. So they don't actually sit. Right here we have another giraffe. We have a waterbuck. You can see how fluffy that waterbuck is. No horns present, so that means that's a female. They prefer where it's marshy, the water is locked, where they seek refuge. When in terms of security, they'll run into waterlogged area. And that is so helpful because we rarely come across waterbuck kills, only once in a while. It's not compared to sometimes when you find buffalo, ground gazelle, impala. We hardly come across waterbuck kills here in the Mara. That seems like another bull. It's a young bull giraffe. Nero, thank you so much for your question. Giraffes can go up to about 26. In captivity, sometimes they can be up to about 14, 15. It depends also with the environment where they live in. And sometimes these giraffes, unfortunately, they're almost getting to be endangered. But we're luckily here, we are very much secure. We have rangers on patrol. But in other parts where we have not secure places, especially when they walk out of the conservation areas, giraffes are termed to be almost endangered because of how they are poached for their meat or all that. So I would say in captivity they can go up to 26. In the wild they can be up to 14 or even longer. So it depends with their natural environment. But here we have very, very many giraffes. So that means we are secure with the protection of the rangers. I'm going to watch as he's walking over to the swamp where we have a mixed herd. We have waterbucks around here. Let's see what's going to happen as I take you over to another live location.
Guys, look what we've just found, myself and Dave. It looks like an ostrich egg. I'm gonna slowly get closer and let's look at what happened over here with this ostrich egg. Wow, beautiful. Very, very typical. First thing we get to analyze here, it's just a single egg, and it's very typical for a female to drop an egg like this for the very first time, a very new female that would be laying. Reason why I would say that, if you look at the dimension of this egg, it's quite small. I mean, I'll measure it against my fist. Usually the ostrich egg would be slightly bigger, so I would say this would be a first time layer ostrich, and usually they wouldn't stick around and hang around with this egg. It's very, very typical behavior of them. But what's also very interesting here, it's so fresh, you can still see where the vulva and everything had been going, and nothing has disturbed it actually, really. So it's very, very fresh. I mean, looking also around here, we can also see the tracks of where this ostrich had actually come by. Dave, if you follow me a little bit here, and we can show the viewers that foot structure of this bird. I mean, it is the tallest bird that we get here, and this would be the big part of the foot and with the exterior there, and this, all of that would be the stride of the bird, and obviously this where it had walked. If you take that, wow, haven't seen this in a while. Wow. Very quite a tough be things like your brown hyena. Yeah, it would be interesting to see.
Welcome back to Phinda and beyond Phinda, should I say. And we've found a small herd of zebra here grazing in this beautiful open hilly grassland. And they've moved into this area where you can see there's been a bit of a fire that's gone through here. Seems like about 2 months ago. And already there's these beautiful fresh shoots of green grass that have started to grow. And after a fire, the grass that grows is extremely nutritious for animals. And I think that's what is pulling these zebras towards this area to capitalize on these beautiful new shoots of grass. You see their tails flicking constantly, all three of them that we can see. There's lots of flies buzzing around them that's irritating them. See how they twitch their skin as well on their shoulder to get rid of the flies that are landing on them as well. And their heads are all down, just grazing. They're doing nothing else other than feeding right now. The one at the back, I don't know if you can see his hair's popped up, and his ears are swiveling all the way around, trying to catch all the sounds that are coming his way. And I think because it's very windy here, these zebra are probably a bit more extra vigilant because they rely quite heavily on their sense of hearing, and with the wind blowing past their ears, it muffles their sense of hearing quite a lot, and they do tend to feel slightly more vulnerable. It's not such a strong breeze, so they are relatively relaxed. In a stronger breeze, they might not even want to be out in this open area at all. They might want to go find a much more covered, maybe some thick bush or clumps of bush to graze in between, because they really do get stressed out by the wind and their ability not to hear or smell. They rely heavily on their sense of smell as well to detect predators like lions, also cheetah and maybe leopard, hyena, but they wouldn't be too worried about those last three. It's pretty much only lions in this area that could worry a cheetah or would be likely to prey or try and attempt to hunt, sorry, not a cheetah, a zebra. I'm mincing my words terribly today, and I must apologize to the Phinda rain frog earlier that I called a Phinda button spider. Phinda rain frog is actually named after Phinda because it was just discovered here a few years ago. But in my excitement, I was beatboxing my words a little bit. We're going to continue to drive around these grassy hillsides and see what else we can find. These zebras look like they're going to continue grazing down into the bottom of the valley. And we're going to send you off to another spot.
Welcome back to Djuma, everybody. We went back via Chitradab just to have a look what was going on. It was pretty quiet. And then we came across this young juvenile BUTLER eagle. It was on the floor. He's now taken off. and is now sitting in the tree. Haven't been able to see what it might have been feeding on. There's all sorts of things that it could have been feeding on. Small mammals, a snake perhaps. You hear the Deirdre's cuckoo in the background. First Deirdre's for me for the season. It's a very easy one because it goes dee 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 Deirdre's. You can tell by looking at the back of this fellow, you'll see he's got featherless legs. And that should be enough to get you in the right direction. Many people will confuse this bird with the brown snake eagle because of the legs. But have a look at the face. It's got almost a greenish sort of scaly face. It's a skin on the surface rather than feathers like the other birds that we see. All the other eagles, obviously the BUTLER eagle, generates that very red face when they get older. The subadults, or juveniles in this case, it's quite a greenish sort of face. Doing a bit of grooming. It always amazes me the ability of these birds of prey to just perch in the heat of the day. These feathers obviously have a huge insulation effect, keeping them warm, and then also helps to keep them a little bit cooler as well. It's not uncommon to find BUTLERs and many eagles on the floor at a watering hole with their feet in the water to help cool themselves down. Sheila, yeah, well, they are very fierce. Just because they're a juvenile, these guys take 7 years to get their breeding plumage, so it's very hard to say exactly how old it is. Normally, if you find it still on the nest, then you can assume it was that years. But they move around and take 7 years to get adult plumage. And by the time they reach adults, they're very efficient at finding food. No one provides them with food after they've left the nest. So either they go hungry or they catch food for themselves. And BUTLERs are very good at finding dead animals, very good at carrion feeding. They're also sort of a snake eagle, so they will catch snakes, reptiles. Possibly also hear a very irate roller behind us. Just doing a little bit of a shout. Defending his tree cavity. Sounds this afternoon. The distant call of a coqui franklin. Okay, well, we're going to keep going up this eastern boundary, go up to Buffelshoek and see what's going on at the watering hole that side.
Well, from birds to animals, and here I have elephants on the plains. Slightly different environment than where I've been seeing them, and it's always a delight to see them somewhere different. Looks like they've been feeding on grass, because over here there's nothing else apart from a lot of red oat grass, and that's what they are feeding on. But looks like they are on a mission. They're headed towards the forest, maybe there's a delicacy, there's a shrub that they would like to eat. Remember, elephants are constantly feeding, almost 18 to 20 hours of a day. They're just feeding. Reason is very poor digestive system. Not everything that goes in is properly utilized. Only about 44 to 50% is properly utilized. Of course, you might think it's a waste, but when it comes out, it pays a lot of roles, from manure, from food to the termites, from food to the dung beetles, from food to other creepy crawlies. So it's not fully waste. We even use them for repelling mosquitoes in the villages. If you put a few around your hut at night and burn them, they burn really slowly because they're very compressed, and elephant dung, and so it repels mosquitoes. And they need large areas to move and roam so that they can get different variety of food or vitamins from different plants. And so an elephant can be seen in northern Mara, which is around 60 kilometers from where I am. And then Jumbo Pandemonium, you ask, how many bulls are in this small herd. I'll take a look with my binoculars, and I'll tell you that the last one, who is a young guy, is a male, and then the second one is a female. Yeah, I can see about 2, but because I'm far, there could be more. And if they are males, that is definitely a young male. And if they are males, it means they are less than 15 years old. They are still in the care of, the matriarch. They are still learning the ropes. They are still being taught, where to be, where to find, different things like salts, certain trees, certain grasses, water. So they're still learning. So Pandemonium, I'm not very sure how many there are there. Maybe the little ones are males. It's quite hard to tell from where I am. But for sure, I think I see 2. There could be more. But looks like a small, beautiful breeding herd. Males don't hang around very much with females. Only they come down when a female is in season. They mate with her. And then once they have mated, they move on to join a bachelor herd. And, she will carry the baby for about 22 months. And every 6 years, she will give birth. I'm going to carry on because there's some giraffes a long ways there. Maybe let's go find them for you guys. I haven't seen some giraffes in 2 days. It's a beautiful light that we have here. And it's cooling down, but not very fast, so it's perfect for cats to be out. And this area we usually find lions. I'm hoping also to find some, maybe. So while I head there, let's find out what's happening somewhere else.
Well, we wish Isaac good luck in his lion search. But here at Ambion Pinda, we've found another of the big 5. We found a herd of buffalo grazing quite close to where we saw those zebras before. They're also capitalizing on this green grass that I was speaking about earlier. That's also been made even greener by the recent rains that we've had in KwaZulu-Natal, Zululand. And this area is actually quite dry still. There's not a lot of permanent water available for the animals to drink. And buffalo are an animal that relies heavily on water. They have to drink every day. Some animals can get away with not drinking every day or even every 2 days, but buffalo have to drink every single day. And so I think these buffalo, you can see they're slowly starting, you can see them all slowly moving in a general direction, and I think they will start making their way to drink at a waterhole which is just over the hill soon. Yeah, they're actually moving quite fast. I don't know if you can see, none of them are actually eating. They're all just moving. They might stop at a spot if they find some particularly good-looking grass, but I think they have made a group decision and they're on their way to find some water. So within this herd of buffalo, there's probably 1 or 2 family groups, and each family group has what we call a pathfinder, and it's the buffalo or the individual that's kind of makes the call as to when to go to water or which direction to take. And it's very interesting to find out which one of them is sort of the pathfinder or the person or the buffalo that chooses where to go. It looks like there's a young female in the front that's leading the charge now. She's walking quite purposefully. So we'll stick with them, I think. We'll stick with these buffaloes and see if we can follow them to wherever they're going. And we're going to send you off to see what else you can see in another location.
Beautiful. So we have left subtle bull stock, and now we come across this beautiful antelope, Anyala. So what we see here, we see no small herd, like different age of the females. And the female are always in that color you're looking at right now. But also there's 2 males on the far end. You're just trying to find them for you right there. So 2 males together, and this is what happened with also kudu. Those are the type of antelope that they're not territorial, and they always sometimes stick around together and they love one another, unless there's maybe one trying to challenge another one. This has come to a dominant situation. And in male, they have kind of a unique way of display, and they all fluff in their hair on top. You always see, and it looks like they're all threatened, but it's all about their dominant display. So I'm going to send you over to another guide who will showing you another beauty of the wild. So I'm going to stick around in this wind very much very damn right now.
So we've just come up towards a watering hole here, and we've taken a little bit of a break, stop and listen and see if anything is coming down. There's nothing around the banks. I was hoping to maybe see a herd of elephants coming down towards here. But they are our regular customers here, the hippos. And just as we arrived, there were 2 little babies, 2 calves, quite young actually, that were almost out of the water, which on a very hot day like today is pretty unusual. You can still see the one popping its head up on the right-hand side there, being a little bit playful, which is quite unusual on this hot day. I mean, their skin is super sensitive to the sun, which is why they spend their days in the water and their night walking around in the evening, feeding on the grass. So they'll try and keep as much of their body submerged and cool on a day like today. There's a bit of movement. Oh, is that one even going to open its mouth for us? Look at that little baby in the background, venturing away, disappearing, sinking to the bottom and they'll actually run or walk across the bottom rather than swim. Quite a shallow part of the watering hole there as well. You'll find particularly the bigger ones kind of wrap their legs up and sink themselves into the mud so that just the tops of their backs, ears, eyes, and nose are exposed. That's the easiest way for them to, in fact, sleep. They can also sleep in the deeper parts. They'll come up for air, sink back down to the bottom. They can hold their breath for around 5 minutes or so, in which case they'll have to just pop up and down. To me, it doesn't seem like the best way to sleep. However, I guess it's all relative. It's what you used to. And all of them very, very still. A couple of the babies are moving around, but not too much activity. I'm sure as it starts to cool down in the next few hours, that they'll start to move around, start to yawn, start to make all sorts of noises, and eventually they will come out and spend their evening moving around. Can't even see any of their ears moving. Often see flies buzzing around their ears. Oh, there's a little ear flick. Often see oxpeckers. I know we've spoken a lot about oxpeckers today. Often see oxpeckers on their backs, picking at old wounds, potentially, particularly on the big older bulls that have maybe been in a fight and they've got a big wound or gash on their backside. Those oxpeckers will go and peck at those wounds, and they'll actually keep them open and exposed for much longer than what would usually happen. They are, in fact, feeding on the blood inside that scar, and the longer they can keep it open, they'll have a fresh supply of blood coming through. This little group here, it looks like there'll be a few females, a couple of babies, and one big male. What are the predators of hippos? So those smaller babies that we saw kind of venturing out, particularly in the evenings, that they get out and start moving around. A pride of lions would love to snack on a little baby hippo. However, at a young age, they very rarely venture too far away from mom. And mom is an incredibly good protector of that little baby. And if a lion gets too close to the jaws of a hippo, it'll take one bite to kill them. So they'll have to be very careful. I guess an injured hippo as well might be a little bit of a target for a lion. They're also quite big, slow animals. So if you're injured, a pride of lions, a few distracting in the front and a couple hopping on the back, they'll simply exhaust the animal until it is too tired and it will fall over. So lions would be their biggest predator. Quite nice. We've all got the sun on our backs here. Getting rather hot. Looks quite nice in the water, hey? Renee, are there crocodiles in this water? There hasn't been a crocodile in this water for a couple of years. However, that doesn't mean myself or anyone should go for a swim in here, because you never know. Any African waterhole like this can have a crocodile today and none tomorrow, and the same the next day. Maybe another crocodile comes back. So although I don't think there's any crocodiles in here at the moment, it could have been one that kind of snuck in last night. They can cover quite a big distance in the evenings, and even after some rains, some big rains, when the tributaries on the other side, the tributaries fill up and they can kind of wash crocodiles into a big watering hole like this. You hear that? There's a little bit of a noise from those hippos. Saw a tiny little baby popping its head up as well. So it seems to be a little bit quieter on this watering hole. These hippos are also taking it super easy. So I think I'm going to continue on send you to somebody else, see what they're having a look at, and see if we can continue to look for these wild dogs. It is starting to cool down as well.
Well, different location and different lions, same thing, resting. And these ones are resting in style. I think the last few days with all the rains, they were feeling really cold, and that's why they're all out in full force to try and regain that energy or those vitamins they had lost due to all the rain and cold. And so they're out resting in style. It looks like the female to the right is warming her belly. Maybe she's been in water for too long. She doesn't like it anymore. She wants to get really hot. They do this quite a lot, lions. Every time they're very full, they will feed and then, you know, rest as much as possible. Remember to talk to us, #WildEarth. Question, comments are really, really welcome. Yeah, it becomes much more interesting. This is the River Pride, and where I am is where they have cubs hidden and tucked somewhere. I'm still looking forward to seeing them, and I'm sure in the next coming days we'll be able to see them, especially in this kind of weather, either very late in the evening or very early in the morning. I might be able, you know, to share them with you. They have about 7 of them, and 3 of the 7 are very, very, very young. Yeah, what you're looking at are 2 females, fully grown. They mature at the age of around 3. Connie Jumbo, do we see the sausage tree pride anymore? They are around, and word is they had made a kill a few days ago. We haven't gone to see them, but it's an area where we don't have coverage, so unfortunately we cannot share that with you. They are out of our range, but once they come into our range, we'll definitely share them with you. But they're doing really, really well. Nothing to worry about. They're alive. They're still holding on to their territory, and I'm sure they are making use of this time of plenty with all the wildebeest. They are, making use of it. But back to what we have here, my resting lions in style. These girls, I know they deserve to rest like this because, before they ate well, we saw them a few times with Bungay, and they were walking very long distances to get a meal and then walk back towards their cubs. So when they rest like this, I don't blame them. From here to where we once saw one go and kill a wildebeest was a very, very long way. Anyway, I'm staying here. Let's see what else we can show you.
We found 2 white rhinos, and it looks like it's a mother and her older calf that are grazing together here, quite close to the bottom of this dry riverbed. I say it's a mother and an older calf because the calf is already quite big. You can see he's not much smaller than the mother. And if you get a look at his front again, or his face, you can see his second horn is starting to grow, and it's already quite long. And he's at least more than 3 or 4 years, I'd say. I think he's probably close to 4, because when his back is higher than his mother's hip, it's a pretty good judge that he's 4 years old. When he starts to get a full front horn, a full back horn as well, he's closer to 6, and he'll probably stay with her until he's 7. White rhinos will walk around with their mothers for quite a while, and they actually find it quite difficult to leave their mother. Elsa's asked quite a good question. She's asked, are rhinos family orientated? And generally, I would say no, in terms of the families that we know. A rhino mother lives pretty much on her own her whole life, except when she has a calf. And while her calf is growing up until it reaches about 6 or 7, they'll remain together. But the father will be out of the picture completely. He only mates with the mother, and then he goes on his own separate way. So a very absent father, but the mother cares for her calf quite well until she's 6 or 7. And then she'll start mating again. The mother will have another calf, and then she'll actually push her older calf away. And then they'll live mostly by themselves for their whole lives. Sometimes you do see rhinos together in small groups of 5 or 6, sometimes even more, but those groups don't last very long. We call them temporary associations. They meet up for a day or two and maybe feed together for a bit and move around together, but then after that they'll go their separate ways. And yeah, rhinos do have sort of their own territories, but they are quite tolerant of each other. They'll overlap territories, and they'll not be too aggressive to each other if they walk through each other's territories, and they're generally quite peaceful and tolerant animals. But this is only with regards to white rhino. Black rhino is a completely different species, completely different behavior, and we're going to try and see if we can find a black rhino this afternoon. It's also a very good area to see them, but black rhinos behave completely different in terms of their social structure as well. They are even less social. Another question from Kululego. How can you distinguish between black rhino and white rhino? Well, let's have a look at these rhino first of all and pick out what features we can see. So have a look at the head of this rhino. It's held quite low to the ground. It's quite rectangular and oblong in shape. It's almost like a rectangular box shape. And if you have a look at its lips, we haven't really got a good look at its lips yet, but the lips are very square, very wide, and designed purely for almost cropping grass right at the base of the grass, almost like a lawnmower. And these rhino are also quite bulky. A black rhino is different in that it's smaller. It's got a head that it holds quite high on its shoulders, not low to the ground, like this white rhino, but high on its shoulders, because it feeds on a completely different level of vegetation. It feeds on leaves from small trees and branches. And also, to do with its feeding, it's got a different shaped lip. It's shaped almost like a parrot's beak, hook-shaped, so it can manipulate leaves into its mouth. And we're going to, probably go in search of some other animals now. These rhinos have moved off, and we'll send you to another place in Africa.
Welcome back to Tswalu Kalahari. What we have on the screen now is a roan antelope. And the first thing one notices with it is how people easily confuse it between your sable and your oryx that we had earlier. I mean, look at those markings on the head and the way the horns curl backwards, typical of the Hippotrachinae family, which is the oryx and this guy that we're looking at. But one way to actually really tell the difference is they look more gray in color as opposed to the sable that would be more black. And also a point of interest is that if you look at him, it's actually the second largest antelope after your common eland, which we also do get around here. So he's slowly grazing for the afternoon towards that dam we were at earlier also. And it's a lone bull that we are seeing here. MJ, it is very true, but as one can imagine, all colors in nature serve a purpose one way or the other. As I was explaining earlier on with the oryx, how the black and the white come into play. Also, again here, it's a very similar thing with how the black and white would also play in terms of reflecting light towards his eyes, and the black going through by his eyes also. So very same principle there that we have with these animals that occur in these arid places where the sun can be a very harsh element to them. Okay, folks, we'll continue in search of any other interesting animals, and for now, we'll send you to our next location.
That's exactly what we are doing this afternoon in St. Lorvu Dam, as we are watching the smaller things while we wait for the bigger things to come down and have a drink, a swim, who knows what, anything really. But my name is Taylor McCurdy, and I'm being blinded by the sun this afternoon, and on camera with me today is Sebastian Rombi. And like I said, we're here at Pridelands, which Seba's trying to block the sun out. This is what you call teamwork. Oh, sorry, we got the wrong command and then we panicked that we weren't live anymore. No, we are live. Okay, phew. We'll have a look at the heron again. Sorry, my shocked face there. I was like, no, this is so cool. Okay, it is a bird. It is a grey heron that we have been watching for the afternoon. It's actually just changed its behavior now. So what we were watching it doing was sunbathing. It had its wings spread open. But now it's gone from sunbathing to hunting. Look at how quietly and stealth-like it's moving through the water. It's barely even making a ripple. There are plenty of frogs in here and fish, and that's particularly what it'll be going after. You're going in quite deep, heron. Now, normally they'll wade just, halfway along their legs, but something that I have seen, which is what this heron is doing now, is the coolest thing ever. I've only seen it a handful of times, but you'll get herons that pretend that they're ducks or geese, and they go into the deeper water, you can see, and they sort of wade around. You can see it's pedaling with its back legs very gently. I don't know why they do it. My theory is, and again, it's just my theory, because I saw it happen in Djuma at Buffelshoek Dam, funny enough. We had a similar sighting. And, I wonder if they go out to be able to hunt in different areas, because it must get a bit tiring after a while walking along the banks of a watering hole in the sort of shallow water looking for fish and frogs. And maybe by doing this, it thinks, Egyptian geese don't eat fish. Perhaps they'll be confused. and little creatures will come closer to it and then they can strike at it. I have never seen them fishing or successfully catching anything, so of course I can't confirm or deny it, but it's just always so fascinating to see them floating on the not on the river. We're not. This is Ndlovu Dam. I don't know why I said river, but it is something quite cool to see, and not something that you see all the time. Now it's just stopped. It is very pretty, especially with the reflection. There is a slight breeze, as you can see. Otherwise, Ndlovu Dam is normally like glass, which would be quite beautiful then. Maybe it's also just cooling down. It's been quite a hot day today, and it has been baking in the sun. But I'm going to sit and watch it and see what it gets up to. And there we go. Susie has just said that she's never ever seen a heron do this before. Yeah, like I said, Susie, I've only seen it a few times. The more and more I watch herons, the more and more I see them do this. So I suppose that is just how it goes. The longer you observe specific animals in different geographical locations, I suppose they all behave slightly different. I can only say that I've seen it in South Africa. So yeah, but it's strange. It's not what we're used to. It's not what the books write about. I haven't found much literature about this. Maybe I just haven't been looking hard enough. That's also a possibility. Sometimes I can be a bit lazy. But now it's not doing anything, so maybe it is just cooling down. When it was standing out and had its wings spread, it was definitely hot because it had its beak open slightly, and it was doing the gular flutter, basically where they'll cool themselves down by evaporation.
Well, I have a beautiful medium-sized elephant here with me, and he is very happy all by himself, enjoying this tough wire grass. Hence its name. It is very tough, and only few animals feed on it. Yeah, he looks like he's no under any stress. He's enjoying the grass. I would estimate maybe he's around 30. And this is a perfect place to be this time of the year. Yeah, and look at him, he's just happy, enjoying the grass. Every now and then, flapping the ears, as you've always heard, the ears contain vessels that transport blood all around, and ears being the only part of the body that has got the thinnest skin. When they flap, the blood is cooled down. It acts like a radiator, I would say, a radiator of the elephant. Cools the blood down. He's just a beautiful big guy. They have about 200 liters of blood, and they can go through the ears, in about half an hour. And during that time, they cool down, and it continuously transports it through the ears and cooling it so it doesn't overheat. But right now the temperatures are cooling down, so it is not as bad. He's not flapping as much, and that's why he's out here in the open. Big bulls like this associate in small bachelor herds. Arthur, did you say, is that Arthur? Are they intelligent? Amongst most animals or mammals that I know, elephant is one of the most, I would say, intelligent, because they have the ability to judge situations. So that I would put it in the category of being intelligent. And an experience, I saw a nice big herd of about 60 walk by towards a Maasai village, and because it was late in the evening, they wanted to pass, and using the intelligence, they stopped not too far and waited for dark to come, and so they passed there really, really fast. I would categorize that as being intelligent and knowing how to make decisions. They walked really fast for about 3 kilometers, then stopped and started grazing. So they are amongst most animals, I would rank them as very smart, very intelligent, and they have the capacity to remember many, many things. And as he's grazing all by himself like this, definitely he's in comms with somebody else, one of his fellow mates, maybe another member of his family. He's in comms with him. So they're very, very, intelligent. Sometimes you find them, in herds of up to 18. And sometimes alone like this. And when I find him alone like this, it means, he's happy. He's not worried about anything. Remember, the only enemies is humans. And for young ones, hyenas and lions. Well, I'm going to stick here for a little bit more. Let's see what else we can share with you.
Thanks, Isaac. Here's about the same from the bull elephant now to a big female elephant and a young one. As you can see, the young one right in the backside. It's always trying to follow behind the mother. And I'm trying to spend enough time, probably like 5 minutes since I get here, but there's no sign of communication. It's happening. So it's probably that way of being separated. Probably it's been a while since they've been separated. But that's not a problem. The mother's around and the young one is safe. Usually this age, probably just above a year old. I mean, it's still vulnerable to pride of lions. If it was ever left alone, lion will be looking at the beautiful prey, looking at this young one, but not a chance when the mother's around here because they're all protective. And if it's any lions or sense the smell of the lions here, that young one, that mother will freak out. All she does, she's just gonna trumpet and run around here, or also get away from this area. Go somewhere else where it's safe. So we're looking at pretty much of African elephant, bush elephants, which we're right in the middle of the bush right now. Let's see, you want to know what bird that was calling around in the background. So that what I also heard it clearly enough that it's that's just another second. Beautiful. So that was one of the spare fowls called Swanson's spare fowls. They actually make a call, but different to most other spare fowls, such as Crescent Franklin, Natal Franklin, Sheld's Franklins, Cockie's Franklin. But this is one of the number 5. But they also occurred where there's a lot of drainage line system again. And they mainly do that. Can't have a visual now, but they're probably on top of the either logs or one of the mound down there, and they make communication like that, so they're able to communicate to one another. It's getting into a time where the sun is going to be setting, so they were able to know where there's the other group. Even they sleep separately, and they were able to tell where the other group it is for the next morning. They were able to hook up again. Bearded woodpecker, I don't know if you're able to hear that, was actually knocking from the way distances. This is one of the beauty about the Africa. We're in the middle of the bush, but you're able to pick up a lot of different sounds. Not only the animal individual that are beautiful, but the sound and the sense of smells out here. So I'm going to take you to another guide while we're trying to get out of this area, look around for something else.
Thanks, Andrew, and welcome everybody to Kayamandi Dam up in Buffelshoek. And isn't this a beautiful scene? So much water up here. There's a few pods of hippos. Some people would say it looks like Lake Kariba, a very big lake. In the north. Water, everybody, is the currency of life. And there are our hippos. So Kayamandi lodges, or should I say accommodation, which is a landowner's house just on the other side. Beautiful little location up here. We're sort of in the north central eastern side, so say the top right hand corner, top eastern corner of Buffelshoek. It's nice to be able to show you these scenes. The lions were actually near here this morning, and we tracked them from here all the way across to the other side, or onto the western side. That's some pretty thick stuff, the Talamati Pride. Debbie, I do have a favourite animal. My favourite animal is the honey badger. Honey badgers are just the coolest animals out. We had some tracks of them this morning and also this afternoon. They're around, out and about. I'd love to see one. Last time I was actually here, Theo, that hippo just did a bit of a yawn. You can see it's actually quite shallow there. It's probably more like a bit of an island. Last time Theo and I were here, we actually had giraffe looking quite seriously at the bush, and out of the vegetation came 2 honey badgers. It's very cool to see. Oh, I didn't say, that's an Egyptian goose, I think. Having a bath, yeah, there's a pair of them. There we go. Now that there's 2, looked like something very different for a moment. The water off a duck's back, everybody. There we go. Shake it out. Proper little booty shake there, isn't it? Some real moves. The Egyptian geese are prolific across Africa at the moment. Very common at all the water bodies. Lots of buffalo weavers nesting in the safety of the middle of this massive waterhole. Stuck in bed. Most of these trees look like leadwoods. They've been growing down in a sort of a depression, and then the landscape was changed slightly so as to accommodate the water, and the trees wouldn't have survived in the underground water or the water constantly at the roots, so they would have died. But leadwoods, they will stand for 100 years, 150 years after dying. Now, most other trees that would have occurred in a floodplain would die. They wouldn't survive, or they'd rot very quickly because they're quite soft wood. It's only the leadwoods that really manage to survive or to stand dead for many, many years. So leadwoods can die if the water level drops or if the water level rises. So they like to be in a certain amount of water, but they don't like to have all their feet wet constantly. But they are very water-loving plants. Neil, they would be quite good back scratches for hippos, I suppose. More like a bum scratch. I wouldn't be able to see a hippo lift up onto its back legs to scratch its back, but that's possible. Maybe the rump area would work. There's a red bull buffalo weaver doing what they do best.
Well, my bull hasn't moved even more than 20 meters. He's enjoying his grass. I don't blame him. Looks like there's a few more down towards the forest there. I don't know if they'll join him later, but he is the only one as far as I can see. This is the same area where we've been seeing elephants in the last few weeks, and this moment he is the only one. Elephants, apart from being very intelligent, remember they live a very long time. Sometimes I compare them living as long as humans, up to around 65, 70 years. And for females, it is said they never reach menopause, so they'll give birth even at a very old age. And another surprising adaptation about them is that, an old female giving birth, and then she passes, she leaves the little one. The rest of the family or the rest of the herd can quickly, start lactating if they were not to produce milk for the little one. That's amazing. Also, recently, it has been documented they give birth to twins. Stuck in bed. What is my favorite thing about elephant? Is that the question? Could we rephrase it? Well, look at that animal. When it has reached the age of about 20, it is, untouchable. That is one thing I like about elephants. The size, to have an animal this size is something that I envy. They can weigh up to 6 tons, anything big, for me, especially in animals, attracts a lot of attention from me. Also, it's the intelligence it carries, how it shows feelings and emotion, especially to a lost one, and the care they give to one another. That is very special. If there is a young one and he is under distress, you will see everybody rushing towards the little one to show, support, to encourage, give morale. And I think that is what makes me like elephants. Apart from that is that, they're big and can walk very quietly, which is sort of creepy. But, it doesn't mean that if you're big, you should make noise. And I think elephant gives a very good example of that. So there's very many things that makes me like elephants. And it's on top of my list as one of the animals that I want to see as much as I live. Yes, and he looks very happy, this guy. And looks like he doesn't want any company. He's just happy by himself. Well, I'm gonna leave him to enjoy his evening, and I'm gonna go back and see what Olalashe and Kijana are doing.
Welcome back to Tswalu Kalahari. We've got a red-crested coron in the milling about there. It's slowly walking, budging its head every now and then, and we tend to think it might be in search for a response in a partner, and every now and then we hope it will come back and actually start making that a perk of a sound. It's almost like bill clapping before they get to the peak of the sound making in attempts of looking for a partner. But right now it looks like it's now actually going deep on the roots there, picking on little insects, so feeding is what it seems to be doing, rather than what it was doing when we first got here in the open and probably attempting to get a mate. Let's see what he continues.
So our lion here in the Masai Mara is actually contemplating whether to go after wildebeest. One is actually crouched next to us in the long grasses. The wildebeest got close, but I think the wind changed direction. So look at how strategic they've positioned themselves. So one of them is actually lying under that grass there. You can only see a teeny tiny bit of the front legs of that lioness. And not far from here, we can see our wildebeest. It might look too close, but then it's too far. So our second lioness is actually lifting her head, watching those wildebeest. None of those wildebeest are aware of her presence. So she's either thinking of getting closer. We've seen lots of failed attempts, even though lions get too close to prey. So they have to time it perfectly. So what they do, they always isolate the ones on the periphery of the herds. So those ones that are not even aware of what's going on, because they keep on following each other, they have no leaders. But then the ones that are left behind, or maybe on the periphery of the herds, are the ones that this lioness might go after. The second one is showing interest as well. Very strategic position. So these lionesses were three. In the morning we saw a big male trying to follow, but then yes, I can see the other big male coming, the one that was not welcomed by these lionesses. It's way over in the distance. Just under that tree, on the left with the frame, you can see the brown patch, and that's the male lion. So he's coming, and I'm not sure if he's going to deter this hunt. So he's gone back to the ground, and our second lioness has positioned strategically. Look at her. She's thinking of it. She wants to creep slowly or closer. Now taupees have changed direction, and they've come closer to our lioness. So that one has shown some signs of creeping, and our second lioness is also doing the same. She's watching over. She can conceal herself with that grass there. So neither of the topi or the wildebeest have seen her. Diamanda, thank you so much for your question. Lions prefer to hunt and not scavenge, but lions are opportunistic. Whenever they come across a kill, they do what we call kleptoparasitism, where they'll snatch out kill from either one who's taken down the hunt. Now our topies are getting closer, and I can see the topies have a tiny calf. Topies have very sharp eyes, and when they stop to look, they have to scan around because they're walking through the bushes, and these bushes might harbor a predator, and so that's why they are looking. Very nice sunset there. At the topies, as we're watching over the Lulu escarpment, the sun sinking in, lion trying to get closer, topies getting closer. How wonderful is this? You can only see the ears. So first, the lead topi is actually getting closer. So they have to wait until they get to at least within 15 meters. So which one will she go for? Will she go for the topi? Will she go for the calf? Will she go for the wildebeest? So let's wait and see. Remember, the topis are not aware of her presence. Thank you so much for your question. The wind is not blowing towards the topi or the wildebeest, because if the wind was blowing that direction, then they would not have been here. So they have to do it perfectly. They have to be downwind so that the predators will only be the ones that have the wind, pick the wind from the prey. So the wildebeest are now led by the calf, who is closing in. I tell you, this is only about 10 meters. This is 10 meters, and they're still creeping in. Is she going to be lucky or not? Yes, it's getting much closer. So these lionesses tried about 2 days ago to hunt, but they were deterred by impalas who were snorting and gave an alarm where the wildebeest ran away. Oh, the top is getting closer. So those ones running are running towards the other waiting lioness. So if either one, if this one misses, the other one might have a chance to go after one. But remember, these are getting too close. But sometimes we wait and it doesn't happen. Dungeon, thank you for your question. She's not alone. There's another lioness that we've just seen waiting in the long... Oh, they've picked the scent. She's gone. There she is. She's on the run. She's isolated the calf. She's on the run. Look at the mother topi protecting the calf. So she's running on the side, making sure that, oh, she's failed. So that is definitely what happens. The mother topi was running and putting the calf on the other side, making sure that the lion is not close to her. So that's another failed attempt today. That was too close. It was a narrow escape. So they'll leave to hunt another day, another time, maybe tonight. So I'm going to sit around here and see what will happen next. A very nice and beautiful sunset that was intense when the lion went for a chase, when they get too close. So I'm waiting to see if they'll be lucky again as I take you over to another live location.
Wow, sounds like some really tense scenes with those lions that you've just come from. I hope she manages to find some more animals to stalk, but we are sitting here at a very dry waterhole with an elephant bull that we've just found that's come out of the tree line and walked slowly towards the last remaining water that there is in this waterhole to have a late afternoon drink. And you can see him using his trunk to put some, looks like some aquatic vegetation into his mouth as well. So he's feeding as well as drinking here by the side of the waterhole. You can see him chewing happily, and looks like he's smelling as well around the plants by his feet, trying to decide which he's going to put into his mouth next. If you have a look at his tusks, his tusks are very, very short, so short that it looks like he has no tusks at all. In fact, you can just see the stub poking out on the left there from where his tusk should come out of. And I think this is an older bull, and I have no idea how he lost his tusks. He might have been in a fight with another bull elephant over a female, or to establish who was more dominant. It might have come off while he was trying to push over a big tree, or he might have even fallen over. I've heard stories about elephants that have fallen over and actually crushed the weight of their head against their tusk so hard that it broke off. So I wonder why this elephant lost his tusks, but it's even more interesting that he lost both of them. Maybe he didn't have good tooth hygiene when he was a child. But teeth are actually very important for elephants, and elephants get 6 sets of teeth in their lifetime, and each of them lasts 10 years. After 10 years, their sets of teeth fall out and they get replaced by new ones. And so the lifespan of elephants in the wild rarely exceeds 60. In fact, almost like clockwork, on their 60th birthday, their teeth fall out, and they can't feed themselves after that much longer. So that's pretty much the limiting factor in what determines how long an elephant lives. They have no natural predators. They are quite successful species. They don't battle to survive in areas where there's lots of food. They're not susceptible to many diseases, so it's their teeth falling out that is their biggest enemy. We know in some parts of the world there are people that like to hunt elephants for their ivory, so apart from poaching as well, that's probably the only thing that causes elephants to not reach their older ages. Very interesting question from Anushka. Thank you for this question. She asks how, if an elephant lost mobility in its trunk, how it would be able to feed itself. And I think the answer to that question is almost impossible. With great difficulty, I think it would feed itself. It depends how much of its trunk it lost. There's thousands and thousands of muscles in their trunk, so for it to lose complete mobility in its trunk would be very uncommon. But I've heard of elephants that have lost sections of their trunk, maybe if they got caught in a snare that was meant for a small animal's neck, and they, even after having lost 30 centimeters or more of their trunk, they're still able to adapt and work around that disability, and are able to pick up branches, pick up leaves. They might not have the 2 sort of prehensile tips on the end that are really good at detailed, fine muscle picking up of small things, but they still are able to manipulate leaves into their mouths well enough to survive. If they lost the whole trunk, though, I think it would be very difficult. But this elephant now, he's wandered further into the middle of the dam wall, and he's still looking like he's quite content, happy, feeding on this aquatic vegetation. And we're going to stick with him for a bit longer, see what he does or what else we can find coming down to this water. And we're going to send you off to somewhere else to see what else we can find somewhere else. Well, it seems we're not going anywhere else. We're going to stick with this elephant, but there is quite a bit of water here, and as I was mentioning earlier, it's very, very dry in this area. It is the end of winter, and we have had some rain, but not quite enough to top up our water holes on these wide open plains. It's also a very small catchment area, so it needs to rain directly down onto the water hole for there to be any change. And we're going to sit here and see what in the late afternoon comes down to drink. That's going to be our plan. And it has changed quite remarkably from an extremely hot day to quite an overcast, quite cool weather. And even though it's still relatively early in the afternoon, I think it might encourage animals that might come out only later to maybe come out earlier and walk around, and if they feel like coming for a drink, they might feel like doing so earlier. So now we are going to whisk you away to another destination, and we're going to wait here by this waterhole while we send you away.
From our lion-filled attempt to a very beautiful sunset on the Ololo Escarpment. Look at how beautiful that is. It's that time of the year when we experience sunset at this time, at 6:30. There's the sun sinking down to our west over the Ololo Escarpment. Super magical, super beautiful. Just want to hold a little bit of silence so that we can hear the sound of the African evening. Beautiful calls from the frogs and the birds. So this time we're almost getting to night, and the night creatures are almost getting up. So this is the high time to see white-tailed mongoose, the bush babies, hyenas, and lions, leopards, because lions prefer hunting during the night. And it was evident just before the sun going down, the lions would have been happy and lucky, but they'll have to wait for tonight or maybe tomorrow morning, depending on how lucky they are. Wiza, it's truly a stunning sunset. Thank you so much for your comment. So the sun is sinking in slowly. I'm just going to reposition to see what these lionesses are up to, because I've not left this position from the failed attempt, and I can see the big male that was trying to follow them this morning has come out into the open. So I'll drive slowly to position myself to see what's going to unfold. Anuska, the sunset makes me feel like I'm in paradise. I always enjoy watching sunrise, or sunset rather, more than sunrise. This is magical, makes me feel like I'm in paradise. So I'm driving slowly to position for that big lion. I can see him out in the open, but still keeping the social distance. A lion is just a few meters from here. So as I try to position to see these lionesses and the lion, let me take you over to another live location.
Beautiful, thanks so much. So now, I don't know, everyone, if you can be able to look through that. Oh yeah, we still got a little bit of a light. I was worried that maybe the light is going, but this is one of the, it's called giant black lizard. And they are, a lot of the time, they're day active creature. They move around during the day. Sometimes they spend a lot of time in one of a curved rock, and they sometimes, they associate with dwarf mongoose, and they sometimes can share somewhat holes, with the dwarf mongoose is not a problem. It's kind of a relationship there going on. But now looking at this very much older mound, it's a lot of holes. I'm hoping to see if then there's going to be any mongoose, but it's not actually used by mongoose, what I can see. And it looks like it's going to be getting dark. It's going to be sleeping in that water hole. So while I'm going to move on, and then I'm going to take you to another guide who will be showing you more of wild Africa.
Our lionesses are still here, and they've kept that lion at bay. Oh, over in the distance I can hear elephant trumpeting. I don't know what spooked the elephant. They even made these lionesses stare all evening yawn. Is it time to go? Yes, let's follow Mom now. It's that time of the evening where we need to find some food. And off they go. They're going to follow Mom to see what Mom will find them for dinner. So I'll just position again for that lion over in the distance. So let's find out if we follow those lionesses. So he's going to walk in a long pace. That's a very active pace. Look at him. He's trying to follow them, but very, very keenly. So as you watch this lion trying to get closer to the lioness, let me take you over to another live location.
And everybody, back to Torchwood we are, and look at who we've got. Sorry if you couldn't hear us before. It is indeed Thandi and her little boy. Yes, bite Mummy's head. Get those ticks off there, little one. Thandi's been a bit grumpy, as she always is, but she's enjoying a little bit of a clean from her cub, and in turn, she's giving it back. Now, everybody, I'd love you all to send through one-word tweet. How does this make you feel? My one word is ecstatic. This is what I've wanted to see. Last cycle I came through, I looked for this boy for weeks. I couldn't find him. And they're going down this little termite mound now. And we can stay with them, but I don't know if we're going to have any signal. We've had to reverse up the hill 50 meters to get this. So depending on where they go, there's another vehicle with us. We'll definitely be able to follow them, but if we can get them view on cameras, uncertain. But I'm excited to have just seen the two of them there like that. Well, blown away. Cynthia, your tweets. How did it make you feel to see those two? Now, of course, those of you who've been watching the show have probably seen them a few times. That is the first time I've seen that cub since June, July, somewhere around there. Very happy. Okay, we're going to have to reposition, but I'm afraid we might lose you if we do drive. Back. Try and get into another position, and hopefully we can get a few.
Our lions have get too close to each other, so I've tried to position to see what's going on here. And it seems like he's trying to be nice to these lionesses. But they're not happy with him at all. They are growling. But he's making sure that his distance does not provoke them. That's a big yawn while the lionesses are cleaning their faces. It's getting cold, so that's a good time for them to go out and hunt. And I'm sure he knows that well, that they all want to hunt. And he might join them for some meal. So are they going to accept him or not? It's been happening since morning. So, but they're not allowing him. But at least now, the distance has narrowed because I can see he's got too close to them. Sassy Cassie, thank you so much for your question. At the age of 2, that is when lionesses are able to produce the young ones. So by the time they get to 2 years old, they're ready to reproduce. And these two seems like they got to that age. And definitely after weaning their cubs to succession, to adulthood, to about 2 years, the lionesses again will come into estrus. So this means that she's able to, and she has already brought her 2 cubs into succession where they've got to 2 years. So it's that time when they're about to mate. So Sassy Cassie, it's 2 years. That is when they first come into mating, and that's when they can reproduce. that is an indication that you are not wanted here. So as soon as he keeps on closing his gap, that lion keeps on growling. So I'm going to stick here and watch these lions as I take you over to another live location.
Welcome back to and Beyond Pinda, and we have stuck with this elephant, and he has made his way to another little waterhole here in the grasslands of Pinda, and he's helping himself to beautiful water that he might have walked kilometers for today. Look how he uses his trunk to fill up. He sucks the water up into his trunk like a straw, and then he sprays it into his mouth. And that trunk of his can hold up to 10 liters of water. So with each spray, he's spraying in 10 liters, and he can sit here and drink for 5 or 10 minutes sometimes, just quenching his thirst after a hot African day. Elephants sometimes weigh up to 6 tons, so they're really a huge machine to keep going. They have to sometimes drink over 300 liters of water a day, which is unbelievable to think about. And they spend their day constantly eating as well. Oh, look, he's spraying it onto his feet as well. Maybe he's got an itch or ticks that he's satisfying by spraying it. Very good question from Yogeshra, and she's asked why this elephant's all on its own. And the reason why it's on its own is because it's a bull. It's an adult bull. It's quite old. I'd say it's probably 30 years old, just judging from its size. So much too old to need his mother. Definitely independent, and adult bull elephants are solitary. They don't stick around with the herd at all, except to mate with females. And they only feel the urge to mate every so often when they go into a sexual state, a hypersexual state called must, where their hormones spike and they all of a sudden need to hold on one second. There's impala that are alarm calling just to our right at something. There may be a predator that they've seen. Just gonna look around to see what they've seen. We'll wait here and have a look at those impala just now. But bottom line is, yes, that is the reason why he's alone. He is always solitary and only finds the herds of the herds of elephants and females when he needs to mate. I don't know if you can hear that on camera. This impala, what they are actually alarming at. But they're snorting. It's making a sound that sounds almost like a dog barking. And they only do that when they have seen something that could potentially be a predator or that's alarmed them. Normally for lions, hyenas, leopards, cheetah. So there we go. You can see the impala looking a little bit agitated. Now, they don't really seem to be looking in any direction, so I think it's just the one impala that's probably seen something, and the rest of them are just joining in. So we're going to stick here in this area, watch this elephant, and see if anything comes of these impala alarm calling. Looks like just a herd of male impala. And yeah, we'll send you off to another live location, and we're going to stick around here.
Well, here I am with Olalashe and one of his girlfriends, and believe me, he has just mated. Sorry, you didn't see it, but he mated. I think he's old and mature enough, and he's waited until it's dark, and he has mated. It's amazing. I thought he was tired, but I think he was, choosing and playing his cards right. So he has mated. So it means that I think it's the last few days. It could be the last day of mating for these lionesses. Maybe tomorrow would be the last day, maybe tonight. But definitely in January, we will have some cubbies. Yeah. And we have one extra female. I wish we could show you all of them together. So there are actually 4 females now and 2 males. So the Olololo Pride is coming back together. Yeah, that is the other female that just appeared. I don't know if she is in season also. She is not interested in Olalashe. She's just doing her own thing. Remember, we are on infrared, the ability, camera with ability to. Your Geshwa, Jumbo, do lions mate with young lionesses? Well, a lioness knows when she's ready to mate, and so she usually is mature when she starts mating. And nature is very different. For them to copulate means there is a desire to bring up new cubs, and so that's when they come into season. So they always do it every about 2 years. Okay, she's gonna go back to the lash. No, going her own business. So this is the female that just mated a while ago. So they'll never mate with young females that are not ready. They'll only mate with females that are ready, and usually the females will present themselves to the male. Geshwa. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting for me if I find them here tomorrow. This has become an area that I've hung around for the last 1 week. It's sometimes nice to hang around one area so you know what's going on, but there's something very interesting that's happening, is that looks like more lionesses are coming back. Remember last year the Olololo Pride, previous year, was very big. Is he gonna mate again? Yeah, looks like he's interested. There we go. Yeah, another mating in less than 5 minutes. Yeah, definitely another mating. So for sure, Lalashe didn't want to mate in the middle of the day in front of all the people and vehicles. He's experienced enough, and he knows that he's gonna have more private time at night, and that's what I think he chose to do. Yes. Yeah, Sibona and Sibululeko, you ask and you want to find out how many females he can mate with. Well, if 3 come into season at the same time, he will mate with them without hesitating. So he will mate even with 3-4 females if they come into season. He's got the ability and power to do that, and that is why I think he's called the lion. One unique adaptation is that he's able to do that, mate with as many females that come into season. Remember that females do also come into season almost at the same times. There is an added advantage to that. It's because If they give birth at the same time, means that, the survival rate of their cubs goes up, because they cross circles each other's young. And if 3 give birth, each one of them 4 cubs, that is 12, it means 1 can stay behind and take care of the cubs while the 2 go hunting, or she can walk at a distance, behind while 2 go hunting, and then she catches up with the other 2. Also, in cases of, when there's a scarcity of food, sometimes lions have been known to travel up to 5 kilometers away. It means 1 can stay behind, and whoever comes with milk can suckle all the cubs. So it is actually an adaptation also that they've, adapted to, and it works really, really well. Remember, of all cats in the world, lions is the most social one, meaning they tolerate one another, unlike jaguars, cougars, called mountain lions, leopards, even smaller cats. They don't tolerate each other, and they're very, very territorial. Well, he's resting, waiting for the lioness to present herself again. I'm not going anywhere. Let's see what's happening in our, next, location.
Welcome again to Tswalu Kalahari. We are with meerkats here. Very busy meerkats, as you can see. Looks like they're excavating a new den site. As you can see, doing a bit of maintenance there. And that's what you're catching with a flick at the hindquarters there. Just digging and removing the sand they've dug. That's basically what they've done. And it just looks like a freshly... a barrow system, but yeah, it could be looking for food, but that is very deep if they are looking for anything to feed from that depth. I mean, it is known that well done, thank you very much for the comment. I mean, these animals are known to use their hearing and dig for little things like scorpions, worms, and so on. But in this case, I really do doubt it, that it is that case. I think we are looking at a new home being built at current. But yeah, very well done to the meerkats. They're the stars, not me. Yeah, you can see how deep they actually go in, and that's why I was saying it's not really for food. I mean, the whole meerkat has just disappeared into that hole. I didn't catch that. If I could get the question again, or the comment, sorry. Seven pains. It is actually a very favorable animal, the meerkat. Not just you. I speak of exposure to a lot of people that do have such interest in these animals. My daughters, for example, always ask me, "Daddy, when are we going to come visit you? We just want to see the meerkats." So yes, they are very adorable and lovable. And I have the benefit of saying, this is my backyard. Again, hard at work. See how the whole animal actually disappears. And these actually barrows at times are interlinked, so they would excavate them in such a way that they link up, and it just makes it easier if they need to escape or confuse a predator, that they can go in the one entrance and go out via a next entrance and just wait it out and see what the predator would do if it's something like a snake that can follow them through. So yeah, it is quite interesting to see how it actually starts from ground zero. Nkululeko, yes, we do have predators like snakes, like your Cape Cobra, which is a very common snake around here, that sometimes they would follow the meerkats as they run into a barrier system like that. I mean, these animals would have different call signs for different predators and different reacting systems as to how they would react when a call is given. So there would be one that would have an outpost, and as soon as a threat is detected, it will give an alarm call, and all the members of the colony around would know exactly what to do. So if in case it is a snake and the snake does follow through, in most cases they'll come in, go out, and wait on the outside and see what the snake does. If it's something like a bird, for example, they'll go onto a very thick shrub, knowing that raptor cannot go through such shrubs or such trees. So each situation is dealt with differently, and also based on how the alarm call was given. And with that, you also get associations where you get other animals actually learning those call signs of different threats, and also benefiting from such. So a very good question, Mpumelelo, with what you just asked. And this is not an overnight thing that will happen by digging like that. Distant relatives look very similar in the case that a lot of people think they are from the same family. If you look at your meerkats, they're actually more classified as a suricate than a mongoose. So features-wise, they look very similar, but if you take the DNA and spread it, it shows that they are actually different animals completely. So distant relatives, yes, but not direct. And off they go. Just lost them there. They might be returning back to their old den, because this doesn't take a day or so to excavate. So let's see what happens in the next few days.
Welcome back. We are still with this elephant bull, and he is giving us a real cold shoulder. He hasn't showed us his face once since we've been sitting with him. And we've only been getting views of his rear for almost the whole afternoon. I don't know what we did wrong to deserve this, but it looks like he might be giving us just a single eyeball now to see what we are and what we're doing and why we keep following him. But he hasn't been changing what he's doing too much. He's still grazing. He's still, you can see now with his trunk, he's twisting the trunk around a piece of grass or even a small tree, to strip the leaves off and place into his mouth and chew on. Do you see what he's doing with his trunk there? Lifting it up and sort of placing it on his tusk, as if he had a tusk. Got a good question from Yogeshra, and she asks how long an elephant's trunk can grow. And I think it depends on the elephant, first of all, because a female elephant is not as big as a male elephant. Elephant bull can stand up to 4 or 5 meters high. And often we don't even see how long an elephant's trunk can be, because they hold their trunk in a contracted state. Their muscles actually contract and hold their, like if you think about a xylophone, how it pulls in and out, I would say an elephant holds its trunk at about halfway most of the time. But if you see it relax, and sometimes like it's doing now, it relaxes its trunk completely, and actually most of that trunk, or half of that trunk at least, could hang on the floor if it's standing up straight when it's completely relaxed. So I'd say about 2 meters. 2 meters, 2.5 meters, depending on a big elephant, but I'm not sure what the world record trunk length is. I'd have to get back to you on that. But yeah, definitely the African elephant would have a bigger trunk length than the Asian elephant. So a bull elephant from Africa would be the one with the longest trunk. And he's making his way slowly off now. You can see his ears spread out, gently flapping as he walks. He's flicking his tail. He just dropped a big ball of dung before you got to us, so there might be some flies or dung beetles even buzzing around him. And he looks like he's in no real rush to go anywhere. It is getting quite dark here, as you can see, and because of the cloud cover, it's getting dark earlier than usual, and it's quite cold at the moment. There's a cold breeze blowing, so I wonder if this elephant might try and retreat into those thick trees that you see in front of him. Elephants don't like the cold at all, just like us, so if there's a wind blowing, he'll try and stay out of the wind for the night. There's also, if you can see in front of him, that bright yellow tree just above his head, fever tree. He loves to eat those. Another good question, what percentage of elephants are tuskless? And as far as I know, African elephants are all meant to have tusks. They know, as a species, they have tusks, and the only reason why they wouldn't be born with tusks, it would be a genetic defect. I have seen a few elephants that just weren't born with tusks at all, but that's a tiny, tiny percentage. Elephants without tusks, that weren't born without tusks, would have had them broken in a fight or rolling around, or maybe trying to push over a tree and broken their tusks like that. So it's very difficult to measure what percentage of them don't have tusks. I would say that all of them were born with tusks, although small, and a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage are born not having tusks. That would just be like a birth defect. So he is heading into those fever trees, and it's interesting how they got their name, fever trees. They grow in these very lowland, moist areas on the east coast of Africa, and when the early settlers came in the 1600s, 1500s, 1400s, they associated these areas with malaria, because the same areas where the trees occur is the same areas where mosquitoes that gave you malaria occur. And they deduced that the bark of this tree is actually what caused malaria, because it's got a very flaky, very powdery bark that you can almost breathe in. and that was how it was given the name fever tree. In the local language here, fever tree is called Inhlosinga, and that means shine from afar. And I think he's going to head into these trees now to find some shelter, maybe browse a bit from their leaves and spend the night there. But we're going to send you off to another live location now to see what else they've got for you.
Well, it is pitch dark and it is lovely to be out here experiencing this kind of experience with all the critters flying in front of the camera. I'm sure they don't notice that we are capturing what is happening there. It is pitch dark. Just listen to what's going on around. Yes, frogs and crickets are very, very happy. That is the lioness that I hadn't seen the whole day. He just came from nowhere. You know, a lot is happening at the moment around this Olololo area, and I think very soon we're going to see all the pride come together, and we're going to have a lot of lionesses and maybe some cubs. Where are you going, Olalashe? Did your girlfriend leave you? I didn't see her sneak away. Oh yes, she's walking a very long way away. She's walked quite a long way over there, and I think that's where he's headed. And he's gone behind this bush here. I think I don't have any choice but to see where he's going. He's gonna come out on the other side. Yeah, they are the lionesses. The two of them, and where is he? He's here. Looks like, you know, how it started, it's quite different. At the beginning, he was very dominant and very possessive of the two lionesses. But now, he's just letting them, you know, walk towards Kijana, who is over there with the collared lioness. I think they've come to understand each other that, you know, I cannot do it all by myself. And so he's very comfortable. Let's see what's happening somewhere else. I'm going to follow him for a little bit.
Beautiful lions. I mean, such an amazing animal to follow and see what their interactive is all about. So we come to this very beautiful position, as you can see the background of the sky, clouds that are just slightly above the level of the tree, and it's all about the beautiful of the golden cloud. But on the far left you can see how the dark take place. So it's probably maybe, I don't know, I don't think it's going to be any of a cloud that's taking place in the middle of the night in that case, just because in the western part, that's where the mountains, part of the end and northern end of a Drunken's Back mountain is. So that's why you can see able to, every time, just after the sunset, what you can see, it's all just a golden sky, and then sometimes pink cloud as you can able to see. Just because all of the dust, and it shows up since the sun is all gone. So, you know, it's one of the beautiful, you know, sunset, just after sunset in this kind of place we're at right now. So South African sunset, sometimes it's only beautiful when it's not much of a cloud, but then if it's just a slightly, you know, a very light cloud, and this is what it's all about there, that you can see. And, you know, it doesn't seem to be, it's going to be much of a change during the night. If it's like this, probably the temperature is going to be staying pretty much the same. It's going to be slightly warmer. as we noticed during the day, we started in, it was very hot, so 29 was something else for us. We get used to it, for sure, we know that. And we're in a season where we will experience a lot of hot day than what it was even a few days ago. So, easy for us to get over 40 degrees, and it's something else. So that's going to be, as you can see now, the sun has totally disappeared already. But just a little bit of the brightness that takes place, it's all disappearing also. Those clouds, that piece that you see, forming kind of a colored, they're not that color, they're dark cloud. It's all just because of the light in the background that takes place. You can see a change as the sun disappears a lot there. Finally, we'll all see just the dark, the cloud that takes place. So I'm going to take you to another safari guide who will take you to a beauty of the wild in Africa while we're sitting around in this now western boundary.
Welcome back to and beyond Phinda, and the sun has gone down, although we didn't see a sunset. And we have, just after sunset, come across these buffaloes, just having come down to drink. It's a pretty sizey herd. I'd say there's about 60, maybe 50, 60 animals here. And they appeared like ghosts from the grass to this waterhole. And now you can see all of their heads are lined up in a straight line. Big, old, male, female, even some small chocolate-colored calves. I don't know if any of you can pick out the chocolate-colored calves with the small horns that are drinking in amongst the adults. And I don't know, there's a rhino in the background as well. Wow, didn't even see that guy. Oh, two of them. So there's two rhinos have followed the buffalo from exactly the same direction they came to the same waterhole. But I think this might be the same herd of buffalo we saw earlier. It was about 3.5, 4 k's away from this waterhole when we saw them at about an hour ago, and they've walked all this way in the cool of the afternoon in order to quench their thirsts. And that's what they're doing right now. Some of these buffalo have been drinking for 2 or 3 minutes now without stopping, so they've obviously been losing a lot of moisture on this hot day. Look at that one with the big horns that's closest to us, that's standing quite deep in the water. If you see his horns, look how they join in the middle. They actually join in the middle, and compare them to the one on the right of him, whose horns actually don't join. The one deeper into the water is a male, and their horns always form a helmet, a bony helmet in the middle of their head with no fur in between them, and it's called a boss. And that's how you tell whether a buffalo is male or female, by their horns and also by their sexual organs as well, if you do get a chance to look under their tail. But I think most of these individuals in this herd are females and calves, and a smattering of males. Yogeshra has asked another question, and her question this time is, do buffaloes migrate to other countries in Africa? And the answer is no, not anymore. There might have been, once upon a time, big movement of herds of buffalo from some places to other places in Africa, but now most buffalo are not free roaming anymore. They're kept inside fenced reserves, which is sad, but it is the reality of the day that we live in. But buffalo, they are tied down to a certain area more than other animals because they have to drink every day, like I was saying before. They can't migrate in search of water. They have to kind of hang around where the water is permanent. So they only really do small regional migrations. Even within Phinda, they spend some time where it's wet and the grass is green from the summer, and they'll move when the grass is green somewhere else, but it won't ever be a huge mass long migration like the wildebeests of Tanzania and Kenya. It'll be smaller, just seasonal movements around. I hope that answers your question. They do move, but not too far. And the fences prevent them from moving too far more than anything else these days. It looks like most of these buffalo have started to move off. Wow. Okay, let's have a look now. These rhinos are actually trying to barge in between these buffalo. And SG's just asked the question, do rhinos and buffaloes get along? And generally, yes, they do. They don't have much to do with each other. They don't have to fear each other because they're aware that both of them don't pose any threat to the other. Rhinos know buffaloes don't want to eat them, and buffaloes know rhinos don't want to eat them. But they still are a little bit on edge when they're too close to each other like this. And I hope the light's good enough to see this, because there's a bit of a standoff now. The buffalo don't want to move, and the rhino want to get past to the water. And it's going to be interesting to see who buckles first. I think the buffaloes might buckle first because rhinos are just bigger than buffaloes. And the general rule of thumb out here is that if something's bigger than you and it walks towards you, make way for it. But these rhino, I think, are put off by the number of buffalo that's around them. And they're feeling a little bit outnumbered and maybe just thinking twice about whether they want to push the buffalo out of the way. Look now, I hope you can see these rhino are starting to, they have pushed the buffalo out of the way and they've got there to drink. And now they're also drinking deeply from the small little waterhole in the middle of the plains. What an amazing interaction, and it was so peaceful. That was a good answer in itself as to, do buffalo and rhino pose each other threats? Not really. They can drink right next to each other and not cause much of a stress to each other. But now the sun has well and truly left us. We left with almost no light here. So watching these rhinos drink, we are going to send you off to another live location.
Well, looks like one of the lionesses stood up and started walking down the road, and everybody stood up and started following her. Every time she stops, everybody stops. It looks like she's hiding something. Is she hiding something? I don't know. She doesn't like the company of Olarashe and also the other lioness to the left. I haven't checked to see if, she's lactating, and so I don't know if she's got cubs and she doesn't like the company of Olarashe. Maybe Olarashe is not the father, which could be very, serious consequences. Remember, there was other males in this territory, namely Fang and Halftail, and they could have sired, some cubs before they left. But who am I to say anything right now? I still have to look at that female and confirm if she is lactating. If she is, then definitely she will have cubs, because there were 3 the whole day. Then all of a sudden I left, came back, and there was another female, and she's the one in front over there. There is a standoff right now. She's not going anywhere, and everybody has stopped. Or, okay, maybe she's not lactating, maybe she wants to mate. Yes, no, she's lactating. She's got some milk. Interesting. Okay. Maybe she's not lactating after all. She's just too full. I still have to confirm, but definitely, you know, she's coming into season, and you know, Olalashe is not, you know, tired. He's just mature, old enough. It's the right time, you know, to mate for him. And actually, yeah, he knew she was coming into season, and you know, he was persistent, and he, you know, she stopped, and they have mated. Yeah, she wasn't here, this lioness. I would wish right now that she is this close. SG Jumbo. Do lions remember who they mated with? Definitely, because, you know, male lions hold territories, and they know exactly how many females are in that territory. And one amazing thing about a lion and lioness is that every time they are in the plains and a lioness would appear, or a lion, you see that they will have a very different kind of stare towards that lion to confirm if they know him or her. And once either they have confirmed or not, then they are, you know, there is either chasing, if they haven't confirmed if it's part of the pride. If it's part of the pride, there will be a nice, you know, welcome where they rub heads, you know, and sort of say, you know, I miss you, where have you been? But there is that stare which tells me they do recognize one another. Those nipples are very swollen. It is dark. I cannot tell if that is milk or it's just she's very full. But she just mated, and if she just mated with cubs, means that she's being submissive. Yogeshwa Jumbo, how do they impress females? Well, it is very tough and hard to impress a female. First of all, they need assurance to be able to come into estrus. Assurance comes in them knowing that they will be protected, and the young ones that the males want to have will be protected and they will be safe. So size and, you know, marking of the territory and them feeling like this is the right male is what really determines if, you know, they really love those guys. There is a lot, you know, in size, strength, and that gives the female the urge to feel like they are wanted in this territory and they come into season quicker. Otherwise, you know, like we saw Blondie, he was getting too weak and he mated a few times with one of the females. They felt she wasn't, you know, he wasn't the right guy, and so they chased him off. But these guys, you know, blowing Lalasha here is mating with multiple, you know, girls. It means that they want him. They really want him. They want to start a pride, and this is the beginning, as you can see. Yeah, this is always the norm. After mating, they will rest. But this is just so beautiful in the middle of the road. You know, I don't have to go off-road. They're just right in front of the vehicle. And that's why they tell you sometimes don't walk on the roads if you get lost in the bush, because you might meet something like this. Where they are, I'm sure they're expecting either buffaloes to come and drink, and maybe they will make a kill. You know, being 6 of them, it's very easy to bring down a fully grown buffalo. So this is the right place for them, and it is a perfect area. To be honest with you guys is that, you know, I did see Fang and also Halftail with all the lionesses and cubs in 2018, and they had killed a buffalo not very far from here. And in total, there were almost 19 So I still think, the others are not too far. And in the next coming weeks, since now there is a male and they're feeling confident that, there is a chance for them to start up a new pride with this Olalashe and Kijana, then they will come back. Okay, normal. Well, it is normal for this, for female to initiate the mating. And you can tell Olalashe, I thought he was tired. He's not. Yeah, he's running on steroids. He's doing really well. He wants to assert authority and also show the females that, he is the right guy. And, yes. Well, yes, I'm very proud of Olalashe because, he's showing dominance to all the females and he's not tired like I thought. He's doing very, very well. I hope this female is not just being submissive and also maybe hiding some cubs. He's just mating with him so that he rests and she can sneak away to the cubs. Well, it's been such a marathon afternoon. Thank you for joining us. From me and all my colleagues in Southern Africa, all the beautiful sightings. All I can tell you is goodbye, and remember to tune in tomorrow for the morning drive. Bye-bye.